And you guys are live.
Good morning and welcome to the Village of East Hampton's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Friday, May 13th, 2022. On the agenda, we have the minutes from April 8th, 2022. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, we're going to hand the meeting over to Philip.
Okay. Determinations to go through. We have 4 today. In the application of Maidstone Club, Inc., 95 Dunmere Lane, Suffolk County, tax map number 3019-4-11, to install drainage piping, a pump station, and associated power supplies is approved. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
QR off. Oh, QR off, sorry.
Pam, can you poll the board, please? Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I missed who seconded.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Mr. Barris. Is Andy here?
I don't think so.
I'm looking here.
I wonder if he's having a problem
He's joining
getting
right
on.
now. Yep.
I see him. Andy, on the application of Maidstone Club, I'm polling the board.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Carmelli? Shahab here? I don't see Shahab. Okay, so that's 3 yeses.
I was having some difficulties getting in. Maybe Shop's having the same thing.
Everyone should be
Okay.
in by now.
All right. Let's keep moving forwards. In the application of Lily Pond Equities, 33 Lily Pond Lane, Suffolk County, tax map number 301-13-13-11.1 for a 1-year extension of time of a coastal erosion hazard area permit, and variance is granted. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Pam, please poll the board.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes?
Mr. Rose,
No.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Barris,
Yes.
and Mr. Carmelli. Absent. Okay.
All right. Now for Guild Hall, we have a couple of things to go through with this. What I'd like to do is just explain the process to the public who's watching. Right now, we're going to declare lead agency. The village planner prepared the secret declaration. So right now, I need a motion to adopt a negative declaration from the board members who sat on that application.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
All right. Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Before we vote, can we just ask a question in terms of the procedural stuff? Because
Okay.
a bunch of issues. When we adopt the lead agency status and the neg deck, it's pursuant to the revised materials that were submitted? Is that
correct? That's correct, Mr. Rose.
Which note the historic historic district aspect. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 For the neg deck.
Aye.
All right. So what I want to do is I want to note that, the DRB reviewed this application and it was sent over to the ZBA with no negative comments. It's come to zoning for a special permit and variances concerning the outside of the building. The hearing was left over for written submissions. So we're going to close the hearing today. So do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Oh, Mr. Chair or Phil, whatever, acting Chair. I just want to note in the context of this application and the process that I suggest, and I don't think we need it necessarily for our action, but it's important, I think, prior to the issuing. What?
I have to do my dishes.
Sorry. No problem. Prior to the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness or the final disposition, I think it's important that this action be referred for comment and input from the Village Preservation Committee that was established by the village board in January. So I don't think we need it for our action, but I don't think anything that we do should be if they advise in the DRB after full review, because they didn't have all the materials presented before them, if they come with a more restrictive proposal, I don't think anything that we're doing should be taken as indicative of a permission granted in excess of what they're willing to permit. Just a point for the record. I suggest the Village Preservation Committee be constituted or called for comment and input prior to a certificate of appropriateness being granted on this.
Understood.
Just to be clear, that's within the purview of the DRB, and they'll make that determination if they see fit.
Okay. Thank you, Vinny.
Yep.
The ZBA is going to issue a determination today, and then we'll send it back to the DRB to determine if it meets the criteria for certificate of appropriateness. Before we issue the determination, I'd like to reiterate that a significant number of neighbors spoke in support of the application. Some were not in support of it. Most of the negative comments concerned the interior of the building, which is not what was before us. The special permit and variances requested were on the outside. Another concern was the table and chairs to be placed in front of the buildings. And we've taken steps in this determination to mitigate some of the concerns, such as no live entertainment out front, no umbrellas on the tables to block the view of the building, no wait service at the tables. Tables and chairs will be removed at the end of business or with 1 hour after a show is ended. The exterior lighting shall comply with the dark sky law. On the east and west patios, each patio should be limited to 3 tables with 3 chairs around said tables. And this is subject to renewal each year by application to the village building department. So we heard what the public was saying and we took that into account. Let's see. So now we just, we close the hearing, right?
Yeah, to close, yep.
Yep. So I just need a motion. We adopted the neg deck, so I need a motion to close the hearing.
Just a quick question. Is there anybody who's seeking to have more input or testify? Have we made sure that we're...
Well, we were only open for written comments.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think we've received a number of letters. So
including some that came in this morning, I think, right, Pam? That's
correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second.
All right. So, in the application of Guildhall of East Hampton.
You need to take a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, in the application of Guildhall East
To
Hampton.
close.
No.
Close
The
the hearing.
vote to close.
Oh, all in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry about
Right.
that.
Thanks, Vinny. In the application of Guildhall of East Hampton, Inc., 158 Main Street, Suffolk County, tax map number 301-8-5-3, to make alterations to an existing theater use and construct accessory improvements is approved. May I have a motion?
Can I just clarify that the determination will be corrected as noted in a previous discussion with council about the council?
Absolutely, Mr. Rose. My error. The comment will be attributed to me, not you.
Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. Pam, will you poll the board, please?
Sure. Mr. O'Connell,
Yes?
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Barris,
Yes.
Mr. Carmelli, if he's there. No. Okay.
Want me to take over now, Phil, or you want to?
You want to just do coup?
Yeah, why don't you finish with Co and then
Okay.
I'll do the hearings. Great, thank you.
All right. So Q LLC 17 Turbo. The record was left open for additional submissions, which we've received. So I need a motion to close the hearing.
I'll make a motion.
All right. I need a second.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So in the application of Q LLC 17 Turbo Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-13-10-3 to legalize accessory improvements, clearing of native vegetation, installation of plantings, and removal of phragmites is approved. May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second, please.
Second.
Pam, please poll the board.
Mr. McMillan,
Yes.
Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes, just noting all the restrictions regarding fertilizer use and watering. Yes.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Carmelli.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Now we're going to move on to the hearings. Thank you, Phil. Pam, would you like to take a
Sure.
eye on this, please? Thank you.
Application of Lisa and Gary Sepp, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-8718 for a variance from Chapter 278 zoning and to modify a previously approved area variance. A 29 square foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A-13 to permit a residence to contain 2,008 square feet of gross floor area where a prior variance approved 1,979 square feet of gross floor area. The maximum permitted gross floor area for this parcel is 1,812 square feet. The applicant hereby requests to modify the architectural plans approved by the prior determination and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 8,118 square feet in area and is located at 43 Mill Hill Lane in Residence District R40. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Is the applicant present? Get on mute yourself, please.
Richard A. Hammer representing the applicant. Also Tara Burke from my office is online too, and hopefully we can answer any questions you might have.
Anybody on the board have any questions here?
I can give you a brief synopsis. Essentially, what is going on is there was a roof line change that it was originally approved by the building department. Upon further review, they sent it back to the zoning board for a review of the massing change that they thought was a reasonable thing. During the course of that review, Billy Hajak, the village planner, started reviewing the plans in more detail and said because of the massing change, we were going to be adding minor areas of gross floor area, some of which were actually included in the original plans, but were excluded either because of a miss or because of the change to the roof. I think the total square footage, maybe Sarah, can you reiterate exactly what the changes are?
Sure. So the original approval had the bay window. In the
Tara, let me swear you in.
Sure.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Tara Burke, 9 South Devon Place, Montauk, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the original approval, as you know, had the bay window in the front, and it was both an architectural change, and they were having a hard time getting the facetted window to line up with the roof line. So they chose to round the front of that bay window area rather than keep the angles. That's 19 square feet in gross floor area change. It's and that's just a result of making the angles round. So they had gone to the building department, the property owners and the architects, and the building department felt that this should be reviewed by the zoning board again. for the massing and the change in appearance. So that's 19 square feet in there. And then as Andy had noted, when Billy started reviewing the plans that were already approved in a little bit more detail, he noticed that there's an additional 10 square feet of gross floor area because of the ceiling height above the 5 feet. So it's not actually habitable space, but just the way it is defined in the code, that's another 10. So you've got the 19 from the rounding and then the 10 in the ceiling height. So it's 29 square feet additional.
Tom, do you have any comments on this? Tom Piata? Mute if you gotta take yourself off mute, please.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I mean, yeah, there is an additional gross floor area variance being requested here due to the change that was, taken upon themselves to make. And then when gross floor areas variances are given, they're very specific as to where exactly. So for where exactly within that home they exist is not just as that you could, stick it on in any area. It's for that very volume. Having noted that change, we felt it would require going back to the board. I have really no other comment.
Any comments from the board here?
Yeah, I want to know why the architect didn't appropriately represent the GFA to begin with. This went through extensive review prior. There was many variances granted. You would think that the design would have been well enough thought out that they're going to take all this time to come before the board the first time and then to come and change at the last minute. You start adding all these things up. Another variance, it pushes it into the substantial area for me.
And if I may, also, I felt it a bit presumptuous, on the homeowner builder to take it to the extent that it did go. So we did do I'll call it a partial stop work order on that particular area.
Comments?
Yeah, hi, this is Lisa Seth. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're doing the board right now, Lisa.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm not sure of all the procedures,
Okay.
so thanks.
Okay, we'll come back to you, I promise. Comments, Jimmy?
Yeah, I had a little difficulty originally giving this variance. I did vote yes for it, but with some reluctance. My thing is now you're, as Phil said, you're adding more square footage to one that was questionable before. So this just makes it that much more of a variance, and I'm not really in favor of that.
Thank you, Jimmy. Carrie, Joe, any comments?
I would just echo what Phil and Jimmy have said. I think, it's come before the board, we've given the variance, and now, to do it and then come back after they've already done work on this and ask for another variance seems like a lot to me.
And I concur with Philip and yourself and Jimmy. Joe, any comments?
No, I concur.
Okay. Lisa, would you like to speak?
Sure. Just
I have to swear you in. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Pam.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Lisa Seth. My address is 43 Mill Hill Lane in East Hampton, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Just so that you're aware, we did go to the building department. We've been really proactive going to the building department several times over the past year. And we went to them, this was last December, to talk to them about just the curving of the area in the front. And if, in a perfect world, we would have had this all worked out ahead of time. But, as was mentioned, apparently if I'm right, and maybe Terry, you can jump in, or Andy, that I believe our architect, unfortunately, he's awesome. He used the 5-foot rule for the height from floor to ceiling, and all of that area is crawl space or mechanical stuff going through it, and that stayed the same. But when Billy and the building inspector, when we went to them last December and said, hey, we realized we're having to curve that one bump out area, and it will still stay well within the first floor existing. Nothing's changed on the first floor. That was when they caught that, really this area should have been, because I think in East Hampton Village, it's a 7-foot rule as habitable space, even if it's still going to be in the walls and for mechanicals. So that's where, as Tara mentioned, at about 10 square feet was sort of bare already. It just wasn't recorded properly. And I agree, I would be looking at this as someone coming back for another, variance. But on the other hand, we know, and, unfortunately in building, we try to make it a perfect plan. And it was probably our mistake in really trying to respect that we were applying for a variance to keep the numbers really tight. We immediately, once letters were brought in, I don't know if you remember our original plan, we were trying to keep the pool house, and that was like 300 square feet. And we've dropped that down to, not pool house, it was a studio, and now it's a garden shed. And we dropped that down to 120 square feet after we saw the letters and we realized, more about ourselves and the neighborhood, and that we wanted to do right with what the neighbors wanted. That again, that curving of the bump out and the perfect plan, it would have been planned out, perfectly ahead of time. But when you're actually building something, things change slightly. And again, it was probably our mistake to try to be so tight with the numbers, but we're not changing the side setbacks. We're not changing the front setback. We're within the initial approved first floor footprint. And we're really trying our best to make this tight and make it work. So I appreciate the board listening.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from anybody else online?
Yes, I would like to add that, essentially a variance is a benefit versus detriment analysis. In this case, the benefit to this building, I think, is largely aesthetic. If you compare the plans that were originally approved by the board versus the plan that is proposed today, my personal feeling is the aesthetic from the streetscape is much improved. In terms of the benefit to the applicant, they're not really getting additional gross floor area on this property that, so it's not an intent to make the house larger. I think it was to include an architectural element that softened the design from the road frontage. It's actually been framed in that fashion right now, so you can drive by and look at it, but I think it's much more pleasing than the original design that was in front of them. So I don't really anticipate a detriment. I know that, it sounded like the board was obviously upset that an applicant would come back to them after having an approval, but I do think that this wasn't done to gain any kind of benefit. I think it was done based on the aesthetic improvement that the community will share. So as much as I don't relish coming back to a board, particularly with an as-built change or a change that was started in advance, this is one that I think does meet the standard of the benefit here is so de minimis, but I do think that the benefit to the community is much greater from the aesthetic improvement to the site that's clearly visible when you drive by. I think the massing, even though it's different, is much softer than it was in the original approval. That, the house design in that approval I thought was very nondescript and sort of routine. I think this has a lot more to offer in terms of the streetscape that the board should take into consideration and balance against the benefit to the applicant here, which is so de minimis.
Thank you, Andy. Anybody else on the line?
There are no callers on the line.
I have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Pam, can we move on to the application? Next hearing for Georgia?
Sure.
Georgia LLC, yep.
Application of Book Georgica LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1258 for an area variance from Chapter 278 zoning to legalize the construction of a residence. A 482 square foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A-13A to legalize the construction of a residence containing 5,944 square feet of gross floor area, where 5,462 is the maximum permitted and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 46,595 square feet in area and is located at 82 Apple Road in Residence District R160. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with CEQA.
Trevor?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Trevor Darrell, Fleming and Darrell PLLC, on behalf of the applicant, Book Georgica. Also here with me is the architect on this application, Kevin O'Sullivan, who is the architect who drew the plans on this property. As Ms. Bennett just said, this applicant comes before you requesting a variance from the GFA relief section 278-3A-13A for a gross floor variance for an as-built structure that is not completely as-built, in that the applicant, through their architects, submitted building plans to the village building department back in 2019. The property, the plans were reviewed and approved by the village building department, and the permit number 10737 was issued for the construction of the residence with the attached garage and out structures, the pool and the pool house, per the plans that had been submitted. The construction began and work was completed over the last 2.5 years, and the applicant and through his builders went to have their CO inspection, or let me backtrack that. Throughout the process of the building phases, the property was inspected along the way, as it should have been for each phase of construction, and was approved along the way. And during the final request for a CO inspection, the finality of the premises, the building inspector asked for the final GFA letter calculation from the architect. Once that request was made, the architects had to sign off on the GFA, and they realized that an actual error had been made in the original plans that had been submitted to the village, which wasn't caught by the village building department, nor was it caught by the architects at the initial submission. So the structure was built as approved, but with an error that is now, a major issue and requires approval from this board. But prior to coming to the board for a variance, the applicant, through his agents, did go meet with the building inspector to see if there was another way that we could get the relief from the GFA other than coming to seek a variance, because as the board may recall, we did apply for a variance back in 19 prior to filing for the construction to relocate the pool and pool house without meeting the setbacks, and there was opposition to those variance requests, and the applicant, wanting to be a good neighbor, withdrew that application because he wanted this project to move forward with the character of the neighborhood and without seeking variances. So the fact that as this construction became completed and a variance was requested, the applicant, obviously, as you can imagine, was not very happy with this need. But we went to the building inspector to see if there was a way that we could meet the GFA calculations, and there really is no practical way to do it, to amend the GFA, because the garage is attached to the structure and it's included in the GFA calculation. So to tear off the garage and relocate it is an impracticality. And there is a great room in the house that has a double height ceiling. And, we had discussed if we drop the ceiling, it doesn't change the exterior of the building one iota. So it wouldn't, the point of, GFA calculations is this concept of massing. And if we drop the ceiling interior, the only person that impacts is the applicant. It doesn't change the exterior for the character of the neighborhood at all. Sorry. I would note that the garage, if it were to be detached, could be built actually a little bit larger than it is as an accessory structure and the accessory setbacks would actually allow it to be, closer to the property line than it is. So, the fact that it's attached to the house does require us to seek this variance, but a garage as an accessory structure would be permissible. So I do note that the board received late last night a letter in opposition from the neighbor. And I would submit to you that while we acknowledge her concerns, we dispute that, the requested variance is substantial, but I would also submit to the board that I do have authority from the applicant that the garage as built is the garage that they will be using for this house. So we could, if the board were so inclined, covenant to not have an additional accessory structure built outside of this existing premises or the plans as submitted, because we don't need an accessory structure since it's part of the main principal structure, if that makes sense.
And can I go to Lisa real quick? Hold on, Trevor.
Sure.
Lisa? How are you? Good morning. Is that can we take that as a, I don't want to say it's not a trade. He offered it to us. Is that something that we can move on?
You can take it into consideration when you make your decision.
Okay.
And would that be something in the decision that we make that a condition of approval?
You can do that. You can consider it you can consider including it as a condition of approval.
Okay.
Without any legal problems down the road.
Well, I'll look into that more clearly when I see what it is that you've decided to actually do with it. If it's just going to be a consideration, if you're going to characterize it as a condition, what that condition looks like.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Trev.
Okay. And so I submit to you that this request is based on the culmination of errors that was on the professional's parts, not on the applicant's part. The applicant is who will be burdened with the hardship. It's not self-created in that he hired people to build a house and, design a house that conformed with the code. It was the error on the architect's part, who admittedly, acknowledges that error. And I think I did attach a letter with the initial application as well. They've never backed away from that position. And Kevin is here to, officially state it to the board as well. This wasn't a planned error by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an error that has no other way to be resolved except seeking relief from this board. And at this point, I guess any questions that the board might have.
Does Tom have any?
Yeah, I was going to ask Tom, do you have any, you want to just kind of bring us up to speed on this also, get your take on it?
Thank you again. Yeah, so I was not, that predates me, this application and the issuance of the permit. However, there was an error, and also, as far as our office goes, I mean, we look at a lot of things. We rely on the architect's stamps, and we do stamp every plan with no oversight or omission, would grant anyone any rights. Basically, it was, it seemed like an honest error. Insofar as the attached garage not being included, and I believe the double height ceiling or ceilings over 15 feet not being included. It's an unfortunate thing. I mean, there are ways that maybe the applicant might not find practical to decrease the gross floor area, and it might not be functional as far as the placement of windows, etc. And what I'm alluding to is decreasing some ceiling heights. Not saying I agree or disagree with that, but that is one consideration, one thing to be considered. That's, basically what I have, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Does Kevin want to speak or?
Yes, I think you'll have to be sworn in by Pam.
Yes, please.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Kevin O'Sullivan, 128 Main Street, East Hampton, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, members of the board.
Morning.
So come before you today, kind of cap in hand, apologetically. It was a genuine and honest error on my part when we were first designing the building. I think it's important for everyone to know that, you know, we go on our reputation. We get business by being reputable professionals in the field. And we only get new business by being reputable members of the field and having a good reputation. And we're obviously, you know, very devastated by the error that I made when we were originally doing the plans. So I think that it's important just for me to let you know that this wasn't something that was calculated or something that was predetermined. It wasn't a sleight of hand. It was just a genuine, honest mistake that's put us into this position and really my client's position.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Board members?
I have a bunch of questions because, first of all, this clearly is a self-imposed hardship. It may have been an unintentionally self-imposed problem, but it's a self-imposed problem by the applicant, and because you guys were acting as agents of the applicant. So the application should be corrected to indicate that it's a self-generated problem. Just let's be clear, there's no point in obfuscating that. Secondly, the fact, as Tom indicated, it is not the responsibility of the buildings department to be double checking and doing all the math every time a licensed architect and formal plans are submitted. And the law is very clear on that subject. It's not it may be an explanation, and I'm not saying an explanation is not relevant in this case, but the implication that the village bears responsibility for this because of the architect's mistake is absurd. Now let's just go to the nature of the calculations and the actual substantive impact. So the source of the mistake, can you just walk through the exact source of the mistake and the calculations that were done incorrectly?
Sure.
And the implication and how it relates to the building that's built.
Certainly. And I apologize if it came across as we were blaming the village. That was not my intention. The blame is to be fully held by the plans that were submitted by the architect for the applicant. We just mentioned that the village reviewed the plans and signed the building permits for which we built. So it wasn't, you know, that we weren't trying to say that somehow, you know, the village was responsible for our error. With that, as to the structure itself, the calculations, as you're aware, are exterior wall to exterior wall, and the garage is attached to the house, where if it was detached from the house, we would have no GFA variance request to be had. But since it is in fact attached to the house, that calculation must be included to the overall GFA for the principal residence, which is the 482 square feet overage that we have. So the way to fix that is to demolish the garage and relocate it as a detached structure, which is almost in practical, the cost will be extremely prohibitive. Or the other way, and that's what Tom had mentioned when we had met about dropping the height ceilings, but it doesn't change the structure or the exterior structure of the building, which is the GFA concept, is that we don't want giant houses on small lots, and creates this idea of massing. Reducing the ceiling height only changes it on paper. It doesn't change the structure, which is seen by the public eye, or, you know, the only person that it negatively impacts would be the applicant. Does that answer your question?
So I just want to make sure I understand it's the fact that the garage is attached that sends it over, and
correct.
The fact that it's a double height ceiling is counted as a double FAR. I mean,
correct.
Double that's counted.
And Trevor, you have a right to build. You still have a right to build the garage somewhere else.
We
right?
could, yes.
Could do another structure closer.
A larger garage.
Say that, Jimmy.
Larger garage.
Yeah.
Correct.
Actually.
And you're offering that as a condition You're offering it. We're not.
That's correct.
asking for it.
Yes.
Before it's being,
Okay.
I mean, it's, the question is what the criteria are for granting the variance. So I went by, Mr. Chair, I'd like to have the opportunity to go by and just look at if there's a very high hedge and fence around the property.
There is.
To go and arrange at some appropriate time in the next few days to go take a look. Just
Okay.
to see.
Trevor, do you mind if we keep this hearing open until next month so Mr. Rose can just take a peek?
I don't have issue, no.
Okay. Any board members? Go
I
ahead.
just had a question.
Go ahead, Philip.
So Kevin, what did you just miss in the code that if you attach the garage, that it becomes part of the GFA? Was that the issue here?
Yeah, Phil, what it was it's a very heavy renovation of an existing structure. And I mistook that the attached garage was going to be part of the GFA. It just completely blanked for me.
Okay.
I just felt that it was non-habitable space and it was my error. So therefore we went ahead and we did the heavy renovation. And the ceiling in the living room was actually, the original was a very heavy pitch in the living room. And what I did was I took the heavy pitch and I flattened off the ceiling of the living room. And I mean, it makes the building look a lot better from the street, which you can actually see from Appoquog more than you can from La Forest. And, you know, it came about from me just not counting the GFA of the garage
Okay.
when I was doing the drawings.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, there's a caller.
Okay. Good morning.
Caller ending with 1403. You're on the air.
I was here to hear about 43 Mill Hill. My name's Charlie Henry. I'm buying the property.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Henry, we've closed that hearing. You maybe want to reach out to Pam or reach out online to read the minutes, or is that the best way, Pam?
Yeah, to watch the LTV YouTube, probably.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if it's not too much of an imposition on everybody, I propose that we reopen the hearing after we're finished with this matter to allow the caller to be heard?
Well, I see the applicant's attorney is gone and the applicant's gone.
Okay.
The caller's offline.
Okay, all right. We should just.
Mr. Chairman, just on this matter, as far as leaving it open, I don't have issue with leaving it open, except for I've been advised that my client's insurance, which you know more about than I, but because it's new construction, he's got to close out his C of O. That's is there any way to leave it for a written record or something, so Mr. Rose has a chance to go look, or no?
I think we could probably leave it for written record. Let Mr. Rose.
We can certainly act at the next meeting if that's.
Yeah, we can if Mr. Rose gets a chance to go in through the gates, sure, that, and look at it. We'll close it for written, just for written comment, and then we can act on it next meeting if everything is, if
perfect. If that's okay, Mr. Rose. I'm not trying to.
No, I understand. I'm not trying to delay. It's a substantive issue that I want to take a look and see.
Yep.
Understand.
Can I say one thing also?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I understand mistakes happen and everything, and I really don't have a problem with granting this variance because if it is detached, they could go with a larger structure. So it being attached to the house, it keeps the structure within reason. And if they are willing to add a covenant that they will not add another garage or structure, that is fine with me. And I just wanted to put that out there now for everybody else to think about.
Okay. Thank you, Jimmy. Any other comments?
I can confirm that would be absolutely amenable to the applicant to covenant against any future garage.
Lisa, should Trevor get you over something in writing on what he's proposing before the next meeting?
Sure, yes, we can consider and perhaps other additional conditions that might be appropriate.
Okay, Trevor, you got that?
Yep, I will speak to
So to be clear, we're leaving the written record open, correct?
Yeah, I feel like we're playing a game show here.
I know what that noise is.
Yeah, so,
That's when the
okay, we're gonna keep,
caller
gonna
signs
keep,
off.
okay, we're gonna keep the record over for written comment. Mr. Rose is gonna get the code from, you're gonna give Mr.
Yes.
Rose the code to the property. Okay, all right, so let's move on.
Give me a call or email or text, or we can get you in there for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next hearing.
Application of Moonbird LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-12-18.2 for an area variance from Chapter 278 zoning to construct an addition onto an existing residence. A 14-foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A4 to construct an addition 36 feet from the rear yard lot line where the required setback is 50 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 128,701 square feet in area and is located at 253 Cove Hollow Road in Residence District R80. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with CEQA.
Is the applicant present?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Christopher Carrillo on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. Good morning, Christopher. Go ahead. You want to speak a little bit on this?
Sure. So this is 253 Cove Hollow Road. This is an older Hampton's home that was, the principal structure was built prior to 1960. The issue here, as you might see on several of the surveys or drawings, is that the principal structure at its closest to the setbacks is approximately 26 feet, where on this particular size property, it's almost a 3-acre property. The required principal structure setbacks are 50 feet. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure, relatively size, as far as the property size, it's about a 3,000 square foot principal structure here. What the applicant is looking to do is to have a approximately 315 foot addition to the southern and southwestern side of this principal structure to add on to the kitchen and add a dining room / foyer with a fireplace. So what they're going to do is, if you're looking at a survey or any overheads, there's a slate patio in place there now. And they're going to push an existing outdoor pergola to the south a little bit, but not go outside the existing structure or lines as of right now. And in that place, they're going to add this nicely drawn up foyer dining room. Bill Beaton of Beaton & Company has provided several of the drawings, which do a pretty nice job of explaining to everybody what exactly they're trying to do here. Just a one-level, simple sort of dining room / foyer with a fireplace. So as far as the variance requirements, again, what we're looking at is the requirement would be to meet a 50-foot setback. The principal structure, the way it sits, is a little bit of an angle to the property line. So at its closest, the structure is about 26 feet. At its furthest, the principal structure is 38 feet. And what we're trying to do is put one in which is actually no closer to the lot line than the existing principal structure. In fact, where this is going to be seated is about 10 feet further off the lot line than parts of the existing structure are already. As far as the variance requirements, again, about a 300 square foot addition. I don't see any undesirable change to the neighborhood. We're not going outside of the existing building coverage on this one. I'm sorry, not building coverage, the existing total lot coverage. As far as a more feasible method, what you're looking at really is, you can't really see inside the house, but that's directly where the kitchen is. So in any addition anywhere else for a foyer dining room doesn't really fit. So there's really not a more feasible method. It's not really a substantial variance. We would say it's probably a rather benign request for the 300 square foot dining room and foyer. We don't see any adverse effects to the environment. It's already covered by a patio area, so we're not adding an additional lot coverage. No wetlands nearby or anything, or environmentally sensitive areas. And is it a self-created difficulty? Well, it hasn't been built yet. We're coming to you requesting this. Ultimately, yes, if we're going to be putting it in this location, we're requesting it to be there. But my clients purchased this home in 2020. It's been there since at least 1960, and that just happens to be where the kitchen is, and really wouldn't fit anywhere else on the principal structure. So that's really the long and short of it. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Christopher. Does any board members have any problem with this?
I do not.
I don't either. So I think it's a beautiful property, and this is not a big request. So
Considering what
those
could
you
go
would-
there on a 3-acre property, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So let's motion to close the hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you,
for your time,
Christopher.
everybody.
Thank you. Pam, can we?
Yes. A request is made by Trom Haas 1 LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-15511.1 for 1-year extension of time of a coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance granted on November 13, 2020 to a prior property owner, Calvin Klein, and amended on June 2nd, 2021 that authorized the construction of additions and alterations to the existing residence, redesign the driveway, and construction of accessory improvements. The subject property is 277,193 square feet in area and is located at 75 West End Road in Residence District R160. The property adjoins the ocean beach and is located in FEMA flood zone VE elevation 17 and zone X. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Is the applicant present?
Yes, Lenny Ackerman.
Morning, Mr. Ackerman.
Morning,
Again.
morning, everyone.
Can I just ask the board real quick here, Mr. Ackerman, before you start? Does anybody have an issue with this application?
No.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ackerman. Motion to close the hearing?
Thank
Let
you.
him make the case.
Okay. Do you want to? We need him to speak on this? I mean, this is pretty.
Yeah, present.
You want to just give us brief, I guess, Mr. Ackerman, just a
Sure, of course. This client is substantially into the construction program. The reason for the request for the extension is that because it's within coastal erosion and it's adjacent to substantial wetlands, not only did we have to get Suffolk County Health Department approval, we were required to get DEC non-jurisdiction. And within a month of filing for the building permit in August, we commenced construction and we're well into construction. I think this client has moved expeditiously. It was associated, of course, with delays with COVID over health. It took us over 2 months to get health, a month and a half to get DEC after that because it couldn't run parallel. We started construction within a week of receipt of the building permit. The building permit itself took a month, and we're well into it. I don't think this is an unreasonable request under the circumstances. Tom Lawrence is here if you have any questions. Hopefully we'll finish it well before the extension that we're requesting. However, we wanted to go out a year in case we ran into any additional problems. We had leaks, we had mold mitigation. This is, as you know, this is a very old historic home, and the client is restoring it and building it back to its glory. So I think this is not an unreasonable request, and I'd appreciate the grant of the application accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Ackerman. Okay. Anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I have a comment just in contrast. I think it went by the site, and as others have as well. There's obviously construction going on. It's a good faith effort to comply. This is a completely legitimate application as far as I can tell. And I just want to contrast it to a previous application where I voted no, which I think was the opposite. I don't think there was any good faith effort in the previous extension application, and it was just game playing. And I think this is a legitimate one and warrants our granting of the extension.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. So I have a motion to close the hearing.
So
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay.
Joe, are you going to be able to get on a call at 2:00?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you
All
very
in
much.
favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion to close the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, Phil, for jumping in.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you all. Have a nice weekend.
Take care.
Thank you.
Buddy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.